Lieutenant Marcus Webb had never imagined his private thoughts would become a matter of galactic diplomacy. The crystalline palace of the Varan Empire stretched around him like frozen starlight, its walls humming with ancient power that made his bones ache. He stood in the throne chamber, unable to move a single muscle, his body locked in place by technology so advanced it felt like magic. Queen Talara sat upon her throne, a being of impossible beauty and terrifying authority. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that shifted like aurora across winter skies. 4 elegant arms rested on the armrests of her seat, and her eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on her face, studied him with an intensity that made him want to disappear. Dot in her primary hand, she held his journal. The small, worn leather book looked absurdly fragile in her grasp. "Lieutenant Webb," she said, her voice resonating through the chamber like a symphony. "I have read your private writings." Marcus felt his heart hammering against his ribs, but his face remained frozen in the neutral expression he'd worn when the paralysis field activated. Panic screamed through his mind. The journal contained months of observations, tactical notes, and personal reflections from his time as Earth's liaison officer to the Varan court. It also contained things he'd never meant for anyone to see. The queen rose from her throne, her 7-foot frame moving with predatory grace. She descended the steps toward him, the journal still in her hand. "You write about our military formations with great insight. You document our customs with scholarly precision. You analyze trade agreements with the mind of a strategist." Marcus would have swallowed if he could. This was it. She'd discovered his intelligence gathering. Earth's fragile alliance with the Varan Empire was about to shatter, and he would be the cause. "But then," Talara continued, stopping 3 feet away from him, "your entries change. You write about the garden ceremonies. You describe the way light moves through the crystal spires at dawn. You wonder whether our poetry translates properly, whether you're understanding the depth of what our scholars share." She opened the journal, her luminescent patterns shifting to deeper blues and purples. "Here, you write, watch the queen mediate a dispute between the mining clans today. She could have imposed her will by force. Instead, she listened for 3 hours, asking questions that revealed assumptions neither side had examined. When the solution emerged, both parties believed they'd discovered it themselves. Is this what leadership should look like? Have we humans forgotten how to do this?" Marcus felt heat rising in his cheeks, though his expression remained locked. The queen turned a page. "And here, the queen's daughter asked me about earth music today. I played her Beethoven's 9th. She wept. I thought aliens weren't supposed to cry at our art. I thought we were too primitive, too young a species. But she understood it. Maybe we're not as alone as I feared." Talara's eyes met his frozen gaze. "You write many such passages, Lieutenant. Observations that go beyond duty. Reflections that suggest something deeper than professional obligation." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the intricate patterns of her markings, like circuits of living light beneath her skin. "Then 3 weeks ago, your entries become conflicted. You write, I think about her constantly. Not as the queen, not as a political entity, as a person. Is that allowed? Can a human feel this way about someone so different? She probably sees me as a child. Our species is barely 300 years into space travel. Hers has spanned galaxies for 10,000 years. What am I doing?" Marcus wanted to close his eyes, wanted to disappear into the floor. Every private fear, every confused feeling he'd worked through on those pages was now being read back to him. "Yesterday's entry," Talara said softly, "is the shortest you've written in months. Just 3 words. I love her." The throne room fell silent. Even the constant hum of the crystal walls seemed to fade. The queen closed the journal gently. "Lieutenant Marcus Webb, I am going to ask you a question. The paralysis field prevents you from lying. Your body will answer honestly, even if your mind wishes otherwise. This is the traditional method by which my people determine truth in matters of the heart. She set the journal aside on a nearby column. When she turned back to him, her bioluminescent patterns had shifted to colors he'd never seen before. Soft golds and warm ambers that seemed to glow from within. "Do you care for me?" she asked. "Not as your queen, not as a political ally of your world, but as Talara? As a person?" The paralysis field shifted. Marcus felt control returning to his body, but only partially. His mouth could move. His eyes could blink. But he remained standing, held in place by invisible force. He could lie. The field wouldn't prevent that, despite what she'd said. The Varan used the paralysis field for interrogation, yes, but it didn't actually detect falsehood. That was a myth, a psychological tool to encourage honesty. Marcus met her three-eyed gaze. In those alien eyes, he saw something he recognized. Vulnerability, hope, fear. "Yes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I care for you. I know it's impossible. I know the political complications, the species differences, the power imbalance. I know I'm just a junior officer from a world you could crush with a thought. But yes, I care for you more than I've ever cared for anyone." The golden patterns on Talara's skin brightened. "Why did you never speak these words?" "Because I'm human," Marcus said, finding strength in honesty. "We're taught to know our place. You're a queen. You've lived 3 of my lifetimes. Your people have achieved things we're still dreaming about. What could I possibly offer you that would matter?" Talara reached out with one of her upper hands, touching his cheek with fingers that were surprisingly warm. "You offer perspective I've never had. You challenge assumptions I didn't know I held. You look at our empire and see both its greatness and its flaws with equal clarity. You make me laugh. You make me think. You make me question whether the path I've walked for 60 years is the only path available." The paralysis field dissolved completely. Marcus stumbled slightly, catching himself. "The garden ceremonies you wrote about," Talara continued, her hand still on his face. "I instituted them after you wondered, in conversation, whether we'd lost touch with growing things. The new trade policies that emphasize cultural exchange over pure economics, born from your observations of what makes partnerships meaningful. You have influenced this empire more than you know." Marcus stared at her. "I thought I was just a liaison, a formality." "You are whatever you choose to be," Talara said. She withdrew her hand, and he felt the loss of warmth immediately. "But I must be honest with you as well. I read your diary not by accident. It was brought to me by the Security Council. They feared you were a spy gathering intelligence to exploit us." His blood went cold. "I convinced them to let me handle the matter personally," she continued. "I read your words, and I found no exploitation, no malice. Only a lonely person trying to understand a strange new world. A person who saw me not as a deity or a tool, but as someone worthy of affection." She took a breath, a gesture he'd learned was significant for her species. "I have lived 60 years, Lieutenant Webb. I have known thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds. None have seen me the way your words describe. To my own people, I am the Queen. To other species, I am the Empire. But to you, I am Talara. Just Talara." Marcus felt tears threatening. He blinked them back. "What happens now?" "Now," Talara said, her patterns shifting to soft blues and greens, "I ask a different question. One I've wanted to ask since I finished your journal. One I've been afraid to ask for reasons similar to yours." She took both his hands in 2 of hers. The gesture felt natural, right? Marcus Webb. If politics and power and species and time meant nothing, If we were just two people who'd found something rare in a vast universe, would you want to see where this path leads? He looked at their joined hands. Human and Vanneran, flesh and light, so different, yet fitting together as if designed for this moment. Yes, he said. Absolutely yes. The Queen of the Varan Empire smiled, an expression that transformed her alien features into something radiant. Then we'll be fools together. We'll face the political storms and the cultural barriers and all those who say it cannot work. But we'll face them honestly. She leaned down, touching her forehead to his, a Varan gesture of deep intimacy. Thank you for writing truth in your diary. Thank you for letting me see your heart. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of her presence, the gentle hum of her bioluminescence. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for asking. Outside the Crystal Palace, two worlds spun in their separate orbits, unaware that in a throne room filled with starlight, something impossible had just become real.